Hello and welcome to this third edition of Extraordinary Outcomes. I'm Shubhanjan Sarkar, your host and founder of PitchLink, the buyer-seller engagement platform. In our show today, we speak with Arun Varadarajan on how the information asymmetry has shifted in favor of the buyers. NS3, our news roundup from the world of sales, SaaS, and startups, as well as Indra Nui, former PepsiCo chairman and CEO, on design. Let's dive right in.
In this bulletin, investment in financial services using blockchain to grow in 2021. Roku acquires Quibi's content. 24.1 billion Agritech opportunity in India. Enterprise software to remain hot in 2021. Investment in financial services using blockchain to grow in 2021. Experts predict that 2021 is poised to see greater adoption and capital investment in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency as more financial services apps get built using blockchain technology. PayPal, Visa, and JP Morgan have adopted cryptocurrency as a payment method in the past year, and startups are planning to develop more user-friendly blockchain platforms. Roku acquires Quibi's content. Less than 3 months after mobile streaming services Quibi said it was shutting down, Roku announced that it plans to acquire the startup's content. Roku will acquire more than 75 shows and documentaries, including more than a dozen new shows that hadn't debuted. Quibi, short for Quick Bites, was meant to be entertainment for people on the go, with programs no longer than 10 minutes. 24.1 billion Agritech opportunity in India. India's Agritech market is expected to boom with increasing rural internet penetration, rapid digital transformation, and rising investor interest. With 58% of the population dependent on agriculture, the growth potential of Agritech is immense in the country. The sector grew from 43 startups in 2013 to more than 1,000 startups in 2020, driven by post-harvest supply chain losses and lack of finance and high-quality inputs for farmers. Enterprise software to remain hot in 2021. The pandemic has changed the way people work and led to an increased demand for collaboration tools such as Zoom and Slack, accelerating cloud adoption by employers. IPOs from companies like Snowflake, C3.ai, and others signal investor interest in collaboration platforms. VCs have their eyes on the enterprise software segment, especially products that can solve issues caused by working from home, such as security and productivity. Thank you for watching. All links are also available in the show notes. If you have news about sales, SaaS, or your startup, share it with us at ns3@pitch.link. See you next time.
Meet Arun Varadarajan, Executive Vice President and member of Executive Committee at Colabera. Arun has significant global experience across Asia, Middle East, Europe, and North America in building solutions, creating market relationships, establishing a strong customer base, and building partner ecosystems in various leadership roles spanning sales, practice, and delivery for over 27 years. Arun has an MBA from Stephen Ross School of Business at University of Michigan and a bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from College of Engineering, Guindy, India. He's currently based in Princeton.
This is an interesting forum for us to reconnect. I think it's extremely germane to what we are going through right now, and probably have been going through for a while, unnoticed.
Yes.
And so I do believe that, as you said, as you rightly said, it is about the buyers, and it's about the sellers trying to figure out how to engage with the buyers and really support the buyers through their buying process. And I think that's the change that we're all at least hoping to make as we move forward.
Right. So, Arun, you have a wealth of experience. I mean, you have worked across geographies in the most competitive markets. You are in one right now. You know this thing inside out. You have played the big boy game. You have played the startup game. You have had tremendous success in your personal endeavors. So, let's get started with the core idea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see and do you agree that how people used to buy and sell, say, 15 years back, I don't want to go further than that because it was obviously different, is
Yes,
not the same as they're buying today?
very true. I would say that. I would absolutely violently agree to that. And to me, there are, I would say, three reasons. One is the information asymmetry that one leveraged 15 years ago no longer exists. In fact, it's the other way around. Buyers are smarter than the sellers. The second is, I think they have a lot more of choices as compared to before. Competition has really stepped up. And I think number three is the buyers are a lot more clearer about what they want to buy. Earlier, a lot of the buying process was exploratory,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what they should do. Today, the buyers have a far better view of their problem statement and therefore are engaging with the sellers to see if the sellers understand their problem statement and are offering them solutions to solve their problem. I think these are the three fundamental changes that I have witnessed, having been in the IT industry for 28 years and counting.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we are trying to engage with this new buyer, if I may call them so, it has to be a positive outcome for both the vendor and the buyer. If it is lopsided either way, it's bound to fail, right? So if the buyer is hammering the vendor to such an extent that he does supply something, but he doesn't get the correct price, then he's bound to slip up on delivery and quality of service and so on. And vice versa. If you have made a buyer pay too much, there will be buying remorse, and the engagement is going to become more and more difficult for the. So keeping it in mind that both sides have to work with a objective of partnership
Hmm.
and great outcome for both.
Hmm.
Where does this start? Do you think it starts from the point where me as a salesman, I'm trying to prepare for engaging with a buyer, but how does it start?
I think first of all, it starts with, in my opinion, it starts with really researching and understanding your buyer, the context that he or she is operating in. What are the challenges that the industry is facing that he or she exists within? Really understanding their imperatives. And today, the advantage that we have also as sellers is that there is great amount of research material available in the in public domains, and if you pay some money also in some in some information domains
Mm-hmm.
which can really give you insights. And I am not seeing consistency amongst the sellers in really leveraging this information to understand what the buyer context is. And that's the starting point for me. So when you're getting into a selling situation, if you have that rich context in your head, you have read the 10K filings, you have read the annual report, you have listened to the last four earnings calls. These are all out there in the market,
Right.
right? If they're not publicly listed, there are other ways for you to search and find information. There's Glassdoor, there are multiple tools available. Then you are in that position where you are starting with a position of emoting to the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I think you will have a very positive start to the experience, because in my opinion, I love to borrow the PNG term, first moment of truth, right? The Which is a concept in CPG marketing. The first moment of truth in that whole selling process or the buying process from the buyer side is how you are able to contextualize your conversation and emote to the buyer.
people are not talking about that enough. So just taking the sales side perspective, why do you think the discourse is still not focusing on this, which is a fundamental, instead of saying, oh, you should do, call analysis, you should do training, and you should do A, B, C, D, but you're not telling, or I have not seen a single course out there which teaches how to research your buyer. I don't know about you, but I have not seen it. Maybe it's there. I'm not saying it's not, but I have not seen it.
You are 100% right. And I'll tell you the reason for that is sales managers are 90 to 80% of the sales managers, and I'll just state out there, maybe I'm going crazy on the statistics. In my opinion, having witnessed this for a long time, 80 to 90% of sales managers are absolutely reviewing the wrong thing. They're reviewing numbers. I agree, the numbers are important. They are the outcomes, but they are the lag indicators. They're not the lead indicators.
Correct.
To me, the lead indicators are, is your salesperson really knowledgeable about the accounts he is going after or she is going after? Does she really understand the customers that she is serving? Does she understand the industry she serves? These are, to me, in leading indicators that will give you a sense that your sales team is executing and operating well. You know what happens is sometimes a salesperson just gets lucky.
Yeah.
She shows up and voila, she closes a deal. It's in spite of her, not because of her.
Exactly.
And this tendency to focus on the lag indicator, which is the number, is absolutely the wrong thing to do. So that's number one. Number two is, even today, the CRM exists only in theory. It's really not being leveraged to understand what are your sellers doing, what are they doing, what kind of call planning are they doing, some of the basic things. So I'll tell you, I had this fantastic experience of working for a very short time for a very, very hardcore sales company called HCL. All of you know HCL. And in HCL, if you did not submit your daily sales report at the end of the day with details, right? And it included call planning. So there was call planning, and there was also for you to report on the calls you made. People will go ballistic. You will be in the regional manager's office in a snap. So really inculcating that discipline in the salesperson and making it part of his or her sales process, I think, is not being given the attention today. Everybody is only looking at the number, the end outcome, and not the process. There's not enough focus on the process.
Absolutely.
That is why this is being ignored. And everybody's in a hurry to sell, right? They've got these widgets, they've got these hammers searching for a nail.
Right.
That is the problem.
Right. In fact, that could be an interesting topic for a later discussion. How arbit is this quota business? And we'll visit that. We'll visit that another day. But it's worth pursuing as a discussion.
It is absolutely worth pursuing, because I'm telling you, I've seen it in, I don't want to really provide names and quote examples, but a few years ago, I realized we had a scenario where we had an opportunity to really construct a large deal. And as opposed to constructing a large deal, because there was focus for that salesperson to deliver his or her numbers in this quarter, we lost the opportunity to construct a large deal. We went with the large deal view, but large deal perspective, but a small deal focus. Right? When I mean by large deal, one is of course the numbers, but what I mean by large deal construct was that there was a very large transformative proposition that we could have sold to the client that would have benefited the client significantly, and of course benefited us.
Of course.
As opposed to taking that broad brush opportunity of saying, hey, here is something that I can deliver to you of significant value, we diluted it and did something small, only to find another smarter seller having that conversation and taking that piece away from us, right? So this happens all the time, and that's why I feel that I have also a problem in terms of how quotas are set and how numbers are set.
Yeah.
They actually are very, very short-term focused. And therefore, in the interest of getting the deal done, they end up losing the deal because they're selling the wrong thing to the client.
Yeah.
And the client, especially today, the client says, you're doing a used car salesman on me. I am not interested in buying from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know how many videos get posted on LinkedIn about how to pressurize the buyer to buy when you want him to buy?
How can you pressurize anyone to buy, right? And I think that's where I think half the problem is, Shubhanjan.
Yeah.
We're really not helping our clients because at the end of the day, I mean, yes, we all obviously need to hit our numbers because if we don't hit our numbers, we're not going to be able to sustain. But I feel that rather than focus, the numbers will come. And I've seen this in my career right through. The numbers come if you do the right thing, right? If you're able to engage with your clients in that trust zone, you talked about that win-win zone, right? The win-win zone has a high overlap with the trust zone,
Yeah.
right? And if
Absolutely.
you are able to operate in that trust zone, you will very quickly reach that win-win zone. And
Yes.
that's where deals are made. That's
Yes.
where deals are.
Yes.
And if you lose focus on that, I think you will end up maybe meeting some of your short-term objectives, but in the long term, you will lose. It's
Absolutely.
guaranteed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How does the salesperson actually, I mean, even if you have listened to the earning calls or even if you have looked through their annual filing and so on, you have a sense that they are moving towards implementing a new solution or opening a new plant or whatever, and you can help them there. How do you actually now go and understand what is the specific needs of this buyer and whether you're able to fulfill that?
Amazing question. Amazing question. Because what happens is people don't realize this, right? When you do the research, what you are doing is basically getting to a higher degree of awareness about your client. You still don't know your client. Let me tell you that because this is secondary information. This is information that is in the public domain. It has its limitations.
Right.
Now, they should become guardrails for initiating your discussion. So when you go in there, don't presuppose that these are the challenges he or she has, but use that information that you have built to arrive at a discovery process for you to really, first of all, understand are these the real problems that he or she is facing, and spend a lot of time on that and make the client talk. I'll tell you the first sales call that you make, you have to be talking less, maybe 10-15%. 85% is what you want the client to talk. And I've seen this time and time and again. We meet a client for the first time. We think it's the opportunity for us to, throw 35, 40 slides at them as to how big and how great we are and all the services and all the offerings that we have. And the client has got complete information overload, has no clue because you sound just like everybody else. Because let me tell you something, it is very difficult for you to differentiate in the services market through any sort of offerings or any sort of productized frameworks. Everybody has one. So I think like the question that you asked, the first step for the salesperson after doing the research and when he or she meets the client is to use that research for coming up with a discovery process and asking a lot of questions so that the client gets to talk about his or her problem. And in the first sales call, you probably don't even need to talk about what you can do.
Arun, when do you think it is? Because again, we know in a B2B, whoever you are meeting doesn't matter. He's not going to decide. He has a bunch of other people with whom he. So either he's at a stage where he has already got a buy-in for buying a solution, and the decision is whether it will be your solution or somebody else's solution. That could be one scenario. and which is likely to be the scenario. By the time you have come in, they have already done the internal buy-ins of buying a solution, not the solution. So when do you need to map out the organization? How do you suss out the fact, whether it's in this meeting or later or how, that I need to understand who all will be in this in the map, whose voice will be important for the final decision when the time comes?
I think it is very simple. Just ask the question, and you'll be amazed how clients see. First of all, as I said, once you get into that level of comfort with the client, with the buyer that you're working with, obviously, like you said, the buying organization is a complex organization. It's not one person who's making the decision. It's probably one or two people who are fronting the decision,
Okay.
right? Now, if you get to that mode of engagement with them, which is highly listening oriented, highly problem solving oriented, highly concerned about their problems, highly, that whole emotive selling process. I can tell you, when you get to that point, I have found clients telling me that, listen, I'm telling you, Arun, that we need to convince these other two people as well, right? I know this is a problem. I know we have to solve this problem. There are these three other people who I think we need to convince. So normally I turn on and say, can I help you in any way? Right? Can I arm you with stuff? Because the worst thing that you want to do is to tell the client, can I go and meet them? That's what most sales guys do. Most sales guys say, hey, if these three other people are also involved in the decision making, let me go. Can you introduce me to them? That's not my style. My style is to say, how can I help you convince them? You tell me.
How do you then determine when is the point when you actually start selling your solution?
The ideal situation, let me tell you the ideal situation, we'll come back to a pragmatic approach. The ideal situation is you have gotten to a point where the buyer actually invites you to sell. And I remember you using this fantastic phrase, which I am now borrowed. This is the permission economy, you said, right, Shubhanjan?
Yes.
And I am translating it to this. To me, the ideal scenario, and there are two deals I'm in the middle of, obviously I can't talk about it, where I know that where the buyer has invited me to sell. Yeah? The buyer says, you know what? I think you know my problem. Not I think. I know you know my problem. I know you absolutely mean well in helping me solve this problem. Right? I'm inviting you to sell to me.
Relationships are not being built the way it was being built, say, 20 years back, right? So 20 years back, pretty much we're selling in the same town we have grown up in. So possibly the plant manager to whom I'm selling went to the same school with me, we played, or he's coaching my son football or rugby or whatever. The trusts were being built over several years, and okay, Shubhanjan has my back, or Arun is not going to sell me something I don't need. He will actually tell me, boss, you know what, you don't buy it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's not happening anymore. We are selling across geographies. We are going from India to US. We are going from US to Spain or to Europe or whatever. So one of the thoughts that sort of come to me is that trust is basically maybe more on the brand than the person who is selling it to me. So break this up for me and tell me, where do you see this? Where do you see this trust actually getting built, and how is it getting built today?
To me, when I break it down like this. There is something known as a market reputation that you build,
Yeah.
right? And this is built over time. So there is a market reputation that gives you permission to play,
Right.
right? It gets you invited into certain buying processes. It allows you that opportunity to get there,
The access.
the access, right? But that's all it gets. After that, it's got nothing to do with your brand. They stop thinking about whether you're from Accenture, whether you're from IBM, or whether you're from Cognizant or wherever else. They stop thinking about that. After that, it's about you. They buy from you. I have never found, again, as I said, I've worked for very small brands. I've ran my own startups. I've also worked for big brands. Consistently, I've known that customers who bought where I was involved in the sales process bought from me. So I think if we break it down, the overall brand reputation of the company only gives you permission to play. It does not give you the permission either to sell or be bought. That has to be earned. And today, customers are willing to just change. See, I'll tell you, these large IT transformation projects of the year have all gone out of the window because they felt it was a very restricted contract model, right? Which didn't give them the opportunity to put the incumbents on the spot. So they're now signing much smaller contracts. And because the contract sizes have gone down significantly, you have to win every time.
I'm assuming that if you are representing a large company like you are and you are in a large deal, you will have equally large competitors trying to do the same thing. So when you get your wins, what do you think swings it towards you or away from you? It's very difficult to really win on features anymore, right?
Exactly.
So that's not going to cut it. So what is it that swings it towards or swings it away from you?
I think it's very simple. Are they confident that you understand their problem? And are they confident that the solution that you are recommending to them is going to solve the problem?
Another point I wanted to sort of probe with you: what kind of roles do independent consultants play in complex sales? So when you are selling something really complex to a large organization, and what kind of balance do they sort of?
So, the interesting thing is, I don't know how, again, maybe I'm running the risk of saying this, but I don't know how independent these advisors are.
Sure.
They have their biases, without a fact, though they come in with the viewpoint that they want to bring in independence.
Yeah.
What they do is, in my opinion, some of them, instead of simplifying the buying process, they overcomplicate it. And they get into details that really is not in any way improving the ability of the buyer to make the decision. They can actually play a very good role, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and I don't know enough of them that are playing that role, in my honest opinion, right? So some of these RFPs that they float are so laborious and sometimes so loaded towards size and scale, as opposed to ability to solve problems, that it completely eliminates a certain set of sellers, right? Just because somebody as one of my clients said, I used to I was in a sales situation where my sales guy said, oh, Arun runs his practice, he has 18,000 people globally or some nonsense like that, right? Which I would have never said. So the client said, I don't care about the fact that he has 18,000 people globally. I care about the 10 that are going to show up on Monday for the project.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happens with some of these so-called advisors is that they eliminate people because of size and scale. And size and scale has a meaning. Definitely. I'm not saying it doesn't, right? Do you have a good balance sheet? Can you take over costs? There are reasons for scale and size, but there are not reasons for scale and size in every scenario. So how do you make that determination as to who should come into the buying process? Should be revisited, because there could be small, nimble companies who can come in and make significant changes, agile, fast, responsive, no bureaucracy, no talking to 10 SVPs before you take a decision, right? And you need that. In today's world of digital transformation, clients are looking for nimble, agile, fast realization of benefits.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think you'll see a lot more of these models emerging as it goes. And again, see, the independent advisors also are coming from the old buying selling paradigm, right? So I think they have, like the sales folks, they have also not made that shift.
No,
And lot of times it is like most advisors, you need to complicate a situation which you can then solve to justify your own being paid whatever you're being paid, right? So
correct.
so a lot of those very very basic, I'll say 30-year-old notions still sort of carry forward. And
Very true.
yeah, but I just wanted to know from you how you see those roles.
I think they have to change dramatically. Long story short,
Hmm,
the advisors and the way they engage
hmm,
in the buying process has to dramatically change
right.
for for the buyer to make a better decision, in my view.
Right, right. Any other thoughts? How sales folks should look at this new era?
I think the important thing for sellers to realize is the less they sell, the
Hmm.
more they will sell.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So I know I'm just playing with words here, but the less they sell, the more they focus on really understanding the client's problem, doing that research. Because I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting in the circumstances we are in today.
hmm,
I've been told by some of my clients
hmm,
that there are service providers who are coming and telling them, oh, can you just extend the billing for these people for another 15 days?
hmm.
Because, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. And, and the client told me, listen, this guy is not coming to solve my problem. I've got problems, right? He's coming to me to solve his problem. And I think that has to change,
Hmm.
right? And today, I think even more, what we have to understand is that our clients are going through a lot of problems and a lot of, some people don't have any revenue. Forget about
Hmm.
revenue contraction. They have
Hmm.
zero revenue.
Right.
And in those circumstances, I think we have to really understand their pain and find out how we can solve that pain. So, what can we do, for example, if they have a zero revenue situation? Focus on that
Hmm.
as opposed to, again, trying to hard sell them and saying, hey, you know what? I will give you some experts. You don't pay me now, you pay me later. That's deferred payment. That is
Yeah.
not solving, again, that is solving your problem of getting your folks busy,
Right.
right?
Right.
Opposed to saying you have revenue contraction problems, what can we do to help you at this stage, right?
Hmm.
Is there cost we can take out, right?
Hmm.
Is there an opportunity to rebaseline your costs? Can we improve your efficiency? Can we get you start getting prepared once recovery starts? Maybe this is
Right.
not the time. Maybe we should find the time for it. So I think that is a dialogue, e- especially in these times. That's
Hmm.
how I think you can differentiate yourself in the market, right?
Right.
Rather than getting pressurized. I know there'll be a lot of pressure from people like me and others on the folks on the ground saying, hey, we have to do something, our revenue is under pressure. But how do you navigate that pressure and how do you isolate yourself from that pressure and really serve the customer
Yeah.
is what every salesperson should look at doing. And of course, it's not easy. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Sure.
that's not easy are the ones that doing the things that are not easy are the ways you can differentiate yourself.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful note to end this chat on. Thank you, Arun. I really enjoyed chatting. I really learned a lot. I mean, I always look forward. I have great respect and admiration for what you have done and accomplished. And I'm so glad that we chatted. And I'm sure, I mean, we will chat more on this.
As usual, phenomenal chatting with you. Have a wonderful evening and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Meet Melanie Diesel, founder of Story Fuel and author of the book, The Content Fuel Framework: How to Generate Unlimited Story Ideas. Prior to founding Story Fuel, Melanie was the first editor of branded content at the New York Times, a founding member of HuffPost's brand storytelling team, and served as director of creative strategy for Time Inc.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and even going back, I mean, I think it's so John Deere who creates, the riding lawnmowers and other, landscaping equipment. I mean, they've been creating a magazine called The Furrow for over 100 years that is built for farmers and, sharing tips for how they can care for their crops and, optimize their farms. So brands have been telling stories for hundreds of years. That's not necessarily new, but exactly as you said, when we move things online, we used to be in an environment where a brand story was just a brand buying a full page ad and they happened to put some words on it instead of pictures, right? And when we moved to the internet, things got a lot more detail, a lot more nuance. There was more opportunity for them to create things that were more native to the environment. So yeah, we talk about infomercials and advertorials, but there's also this sort of secondary category of sponsored content or branded content that is slightly more elevated. It's usually slightly less product focused and more in keeping with what's the natural editorial content in that environment.
And finally, here is Indra Nui, former PepsiCo chairman and CEO, defining what design means to her. This excerpt is from her View from the Top talk at Stanford GSB on May 10th, 2016.
To me, design is something that you embed into a product or a service or an offering that romances the consumer and draws them to the shelf or to the product or to the service or whatever it is.
That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay well and convert more.